I really did like your apocalyptical world, an adventure game. You captured the destruction of the environment very well with gritty monochromatic ambience. There's a few detailed elements in there to draw the eye to a specific area. I'd like to have seen the inclusion perhaps of some light sources. That would have added another dimension to your levels, perhaps some fires and fizzy electrical cables or lanterns. All in all, you've achieved a good sense of scale. Your perspective and your layout of your scenes encourages the player to explore. Don't be afraid to tweak your screenshots in Photoshop for your presentations and up that contrast a little, or even highlight some focal points, and you can explain why you've done this because of the issues with coronavirus to any future employers when you put your CV together. James Moore is our next contestant. Good job of creating a very professional presentation, James. You've included demonstrations of the hardware needed to play the game, along with recording of a playable level. So you managed to turn out a very rounded presentation. Well done. It was also very amusing. Jordan Woodhouse, I really admire you for taking on a visual novel. The maze of outcomes that a player has to experience in any novel-based games is one of the biggest challenges a designer can face. And it's really obvious that you've got a passion for writing. However, it is best to show your own artwork, perhaps, and some modelling skills when you apply for jobs. And if you want the player to engage fully in this novel experience, it's worth considering having lots of major events to keep them interested. So yes, well done on that demo. Marcus Radosta is our next student. He mentioned that this was his level design for a horror game. And I like, Marcus, that you've considered noisy, quick paths through your levels and quiet, slow paths. I'm considering what the benefit is for taking the slow paths, and I'd have liked to have seen a bit more clarity on this in your explanation. It had really been lovely to see some examples of your enemies, for instance, also how you interacted with objects on your levels, such as knocking things over, having clattering sounds as you passed. You've mentioned that you had to adjust your level layout when you began to populate it with objects. And this is something that you'll find you can achieve almost organically sometimes as you combine pathways with obstacles. It's really good that you discovered that routes have to be adjusted depending on object and enemy placements. Ned Griffiths, I think you'd mentioned that you'd done or considered 2 different game titles, the first being your melody game, and the other a game called Perceive. And both games have interesting concepts, and I can appreciate the technicalities of each. Melody is an interesting feel-good game. However, screenshots won't really do it justice in a presentation, as so much of your playability revolves around audio. And regarding your second game choice of Perception, events happening around you in the instance of a blink, it might be tricky to implement this, but it is a very good concept. Anything that's happening in your peripheral vision is a good idea in any horror game, as it adds that extra element of atmosphere. I sort of liken it to games like Slender Man, the quick glance experience, but that achieves that with the use of a torch. I think it's great that you're thinking of ways to expand on that idea though. Now, I remember meeting Nicholas when I visited, and I really admired you for being brave enough to attempt not only a demo for an RPG game, but also to take the retro approach of 8-bit graphics. I think there's a market for these games, but it is limited. And from my visit to York, I think you told me that you created some of your own sprites, which again is admirable. I thought your written summary of your game design was very concise, and your grammar and your writing skills in this short description of the game was excellent. And this will hold you in good stead when it comes to written applications in future employment, and certainly be beneficial for creating concise dialogue for further RPG games. So well done, Nicholas. Thomas White, Stagnant, an excellent example of a well-rounded demonstration of a game concept. You put a great deal of thought into how to divert players along a pathway, and I particularly like the idea of blocking areas with falling bookcases and other obstacles. I also thought the end of pathways loop you suggested in your summary, where the player is taken back to the beginning of a level, was a very interesting idea, and it reminded me a little bit of American Horror Story, Series 1, The House. We all love a good horror game, but your playable areas really did look very intriguing and well done, especially regarding your modelling skills, Thomas. I can appreciate that the effort you put into the objects. And P.S. I've put as a quick note on your work, I like the word postulate that you used in your game description. And then the final application is from Yasmine, and I thought your characters' designs were excellent, and you clearly have a great degree of artistic talent regarding your drawing and Photoshop skills. You've offered a tiny sample of one of the assets you created for the game that I saw when I visited the uni. Now, it'd have been good to have seen more of that, Yasmine. And please don't criticise your abilities to create environments. I was very impressed with what I saw. You commented on your summary that you enjoy working in a team environment and developing concepts for for other teams, but you do have the ability to do so much more. So don't sell yourself short when applying for positions in the industry.